Let me set the scene. You crack open your textbook, ready to absorb all the key information for your upcoming exam. As your eyes scan the pages, the words blend together into blocks of text, and you passively plow chapter after chapter and highlight sentence after sentence. At first, it seems like the knowledge is sticking. The studying is going well, is what you think. But then, just days later, blank. Your mind hits a wall. You realize that you retained really little. It's as if the words flowed in one ear and came out the other. You recognize your handwriting on your study notes, but you barely remember writing it. Panic starts to set in. Your go-to study strategies don't seem to be working. And no matter how many notes you highlight or flashcards you create, the knowledge isn't sticking. You start to think, I'll never get through any of this material. Why can't I just focus and retain this stuff? Is there something wrong with me? Couple that with the fact that you know you should have started sooner. But between procrastination, lack of motivation, you're perpetually stuck playing catch up. No matter how hard you try, you're always cramming at the last minute. Sound familiar? And look, it's not your fault. The truth is, most students have never been taught how to properly prepare for exams. Schools don't offer evidence-based study strategies, so when exam time comes around, it's up to you to figure it out. And as someone who coaches thousands of students on how to learn, I noticed that in most cases, you're left frantically trying to memorize hundreds of pages of content without any framework. Relying on passive methods like highlighting or rereading, hoping something will stick in your brain. But in case you don't know, these outdated techniques have been proven ineffective for true learning and retention. And the good news is that effective studying for exams is a skill that can be learned just like any other. And in today's video, I'm going to give you a complete framework to help you develop that skill. Let's jump straight in. So here are 3 steps to help you study better for your exams. Step 1, identify common revision approaches to exams. Step 2 is to upgrade your revision arsenal. And step 3 is to maximize your ability to perform by developing the most underrated skill. Okay, so let's dive into it. First up, identifying common approaches to exams. You know them: practice papers, flashcards, that last-minute intense cramming session. But here's the twist. Are these methods really helping, or are they just familiar comforts? Flashcards and practice papers are the most common methods of preparing, yet they're not the most effective methods you can use. The effectiveness of a revision technique can be determined by this 3-question checklist. Question 1. How many knowledge gaps does the revision technique reveal? Question 2. How time-consuming is the revision technique? And question 3. Does the revision technique allow you to achieve your learning needs? Let's break down how effective the common revision methods are, starting with flashcards. Take a look at flashcards. How many knowledge gaps do flashcards reveal? While flashcards are good for memorizing information that's isolated, they only reveal a limited amount of knowledge gaps. Just imagine yourself using a deck of flashcards. How would you do it? You'd probably literally flash the cards before your eyes several times before you can remember the information, right? But that's just memorizing information. You're not connecting bits of information together, which are the important knowledge gaps. For example, you may have memorized the very specific facts of human respiration and plant respiration. But what if I asked you to compare the similarities and differences between human and plant respiration? It's a whole different level of testing that you're not exposed to. And flashcards don't help you explore these knowledge gaps that require you to integrate information. And how time-consuming are flashcards? Well, flashcards are extremely time-consuming, since learning through flashcards may require you to spend more than 30 minutes or even longer per card just to memorize the information. And remember the idea of just repeatedly going through the cards in the deck? That deck is constantly expanding as you learn more content, and so more time is needed to go through that deck. And do flashcards allow you to achieve your learning needs? Most of the time, not really. Think about tests that demand integration and higher order recall rather than just the regurgitation of information. An example of tests that demands you to integrate concepts could be like an end-of-year biology exam that ties in all the concepts from ecology, anatomy, and psychology all together. Flashcards don't do much to help you achieve a high level of mastery over the content. Okay, but what about practice papers? Well, practice papers may help you identify many knowledge gaps at the start. The first few papers you do, most questions seem rather new to you, so you're actually learning something. But this benefit wears off very quickly. A few more practice papers in, and you soon find yourself practicing many similar questions repeatedly, instead of doing questions which challenge you and reveal your knowledge gaps. This is because the vast majority of practice questions are too similar to pose any new opportunities to identify gaps in your knowledge. So practice papers eventually become an ineffective technique. And despite doing countless practice papers, it's still very possible to get crushed by one new exam since challenging questions always appear. Now that we know that the common revision methods of flashcards and practice papers are not effective when used alone, how do we solve this? Well, you need to move on to step 2, which is to upgrade your revision arsenal. You need to upgrade how you're revising for your exams. Let's go back to our checklist of what makes an effective revision technique. We need a technique that is time efficient, meaning that for the amount of time we spend, we find as many gaps as possible. The technique needs to allow us to achieve our retrieval needs and our goals. Integrating revision techniques like reteaching, challenging questions, group study are excellent techniques to use to revise for your exam. First on our list is reteaching to an imaginary student. When you teach information that you've learned, you're not just recalling the information, you're restructuring it, you're simplifying it, and you're considering all the possible angles for explaining the information. Let's take the example of photosynthesis. So for example, if you were to just memorize and learn what photosynthesis is, you would just literally repeat the definition of photosynthesis. You would say, photosynthesis is the process by which plants use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to create oxygen and energy in the form of sugar. However, when teaching and slowing down your thought process by teaching an imaginary student, you would really consider a lot more things. This is because now you just can't regurgitate what photosynthesis is as a process, as the definition in isolation won't make sense to an imaginary student. You need to think about how you need to explain the importance of photosynthesis. You would start considering the factors that influence the process of photosynthesis. And the only reason why you'd go into these finer details, just beyond the definition of photosynthesis, is because you're no longer focused on just regurgitating the information. Now you really want to teach this information and help your imaginary student appreciate the intricacies of what you're teaching. So instead of just regurgitating these definitions, your teaching flow may sound like this. Photosynthesis is the process plants use to convert certain raw inputs into energy. Specifically, sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide converted to oxygen and sugar. This is very important for plants because if plants did not engage in the process of photosynthesis, they wouldn't be able to survive and they'd eventually die out because of the lack of sugars. Another reason as to why photosynthesis is important is due to the fact that oxygen is created. And this is the same oxygen humans and animals use to live and breathe. Photosynthesis is a process that is foundational to all life. And through this process of teaching, although you are slowing down your thought process, you're actually learning faster because you're finding many more gaps in your knowledge as a result of slowing down and thinking about the information in an interconnected manner. Teaching an imaginary student is a revision technique you can apply to any content that you're learning. So let's apply that 3-question checklist to see if teaching is an efficient revision technique. The first question on our checklist is, how many knowledge gaps does the revision technique reveal? Does teaching reveal a good amount of knowledge gaps? If you can't explain a certain concept or rely on too much terminology during your teaching session, then you've identified a gap. Just like what we've mentioned previously about not fully understanding the photosynthesis process. When you teach someone and consider the questions an imaginary student might ask you, you might realize that you don't truly understand the factors that influence the process of photosynthesis. And that's the gap. Question 2. Is teaching time efficient? Reteaching helps you identify many gaps and quite quickly too, since each teaching session isn't going to be hours on end, making it extremely time efficient. Question 3. Is teaching relevant to your learning needs? Definitely. Most exams will require you to explain many different concepts from many different angles. For example, you may be required to explain how the process of photosynthesis is different in a dry climate versus a wet climate. And by teaching an imaginary student, you would need to consider all these possible angles in which the information can be used. Next up, attempting challenging questions. This isn't about the straightforward textbook questions. We're talking about curveball questions, the unexpected questions that make you think outside the box. The goal is to create questions that you don't know the answer to and the question doesn't necessarily need to make sense. Finding out a certain question cannot be answered is extremely valuable learning in itself. You don't need to spend a lot of time creating a challenging question. Just create a question that integrates multiple concepts with one another. Let's take an example from grade 12 biology. Imagine you're learning about the human respiratory system. A straightforward question might sound like, what is the function of the alveoli? Easy enough, right? But here's the curveball for you. If a person were to ascend to a high altitude, how would their respiratory system adapt over time? And what implications would this have for the oxygen carrying capacity of their blood? This question isn't just asking for a regurgitation of facts. It's challenging you to apply what you know about the respiratory system in a new dynamic context. You need to have a good understanding of the function of alveoli and infer how changing climate affects your understanding of the alveoli. Let's apply that 3-question checklist again. Question 1. Does attempting challenging questions reveal a good amount of knowledge gaps? Yes, since you're literally creating questions you don't know the answer to. You're always filling in your gaps of new knowledge when creating and answering challenging questions. Question 2. Are challenging questions time efficient? Since you're attempting questions you should not know the answer to, you're constantly learning, which makes challenge questions one of the most time-efficient revision techniques. And question 3, do challenging questions help you achieve your learning needs? Well, yes, since most exams definitely require a higher level application of the concepts. Challenging questions help you achieve this requirement. And the last revision method is group study. Never underestimate the power of group study. Peer discussions, debates, and explaining concepts to each other are all effective ways to not only learn and revise the information rapidly, but also have that aspect of fun and social engagement during the process of revising for exams. To know more about a step-by-step process to actually maximize the potential of group study, refer to this video we did here. In these sessions, you're not just learning from your own perspective, but you're also gaining insight from others. Sometimes, your friends may be able to point out blind spots in your understanding of a certain concept that you never knew existed. And the last step is step 3. Maximize your ability to perform by developing the most underrated skill. Alright, we've talked a lot about study strategies, but there's more to acing exams than just learning skills. Here's a secret sauce that most people overlook, which can be the difference between an A grade and a B: sleep and relaxation. First up is sleep. You might think pulling an all-nighter is a way to go, but let me tell you, sleep is not just a break from studying, it's an integral part of the learning process. Prioritize sleep. Actually schedule it like you would for any important appointment. And I'm not just talking about getting your usual hours, I mean getting more sleep, especially as your exams approach. Usually, this means 9 hours in bed to get 8 hours of sleep. And your brain is like a battery. It needs to recharge fully to perform at its best. If you really need to, do some late night cramming at least a week out from your exam, so you can prioritize sleep in the final days before your exam. And then there's relaxation. Not just normal relaxation where you sit idly and do nothing, but active relaxation. Active relaxation means engaging in activities that rejuvenate you mentally and physically. And whether it's a walk in the park, some light reading, or even some meditation, these moments of relaxation are vital. They give your brain a chance to unwind and process all that you've learned. You need to remember, while studying is key, taking care of your brain through sleep and active relaxation is just as important. Balance your time and you'll not only feel better, but you'll also set yourself up for greater success come exam day. I hope you took away some key and valuable learning points from today. So basically, if I were to summarize it in 3 simple points, point 1, identify the common yet ineffective approaches to revision, like highlighting and flashcards. Point 2, upgrade your revision toolkit with revision techniques like reteaching concepts, creating challenging questions, and group study. And finally, point 3, maximize your ability to perform by prioritizing sleep and active relaxation. Now I want to hear from you. What's one thing you're going to try implementing in your study routine after watching this video? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to take your ability to learn and retain information to the next level, be sure to subscribe to the iCanStudy channel. We release videos with science-backed study tips and frameworks designed specifically for students like you. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. See you in the next one.